Linda, I'm away, love. I'll see you tonight.
All right, love. See you tonight.
Ta-ra, love.
Ta-ra, love.
Morning, Davey. Yes, Dave. You good? Fine, mate. You? Fine. Good lad. Gordon!
Hello, Dave. What are you there?
Have a minute, mate, will you?
Come on, there are you.
I'll come down with you. I'll come with you. Come down.
The last day that you can vote on the 1FM Top 100. Currently just inside the top 10 amongst others are Thriller by Michael Jackson. We're going to broadcast it in full on August Bank Holiday Monday. Myself and Mr. Your three favourites in is 0891 555 100. Calls cost.
Get down there. 2 minutes. 2 minutes out the way.
Just by phoning, not only do you get your three favourite songs into the 1FM Top 100, but you could also win yourself some rather groovy prizes like... the last day of voting, and I'll be announcing...
Last year, we had over 32,000 serious accidents in the mining industry. 1 in every 3 of those accidents was due to slipping, stumbling or falling. What worries me, quite apart from the high frequency of this type of accident, is that people tend to think that the injuries caused are only minor. In fact, in many cases, quite the opposite is true. If you come with me, I'll show you what I mean. Steve Thompson has been with us for 3 years now as an underground development worker. This is his first day back at work after 5 weeks' absence. I asked him to recall how he came to be injured.
We just finished a shift in 58 Rockhead, and being a Friday, everyone was keen to go home for the weekend. When the train pulled in, everyone started running to make the front of the queue. I'd only gone a few yards when I slipped. I was scared stiff. I remember a thud across my face and then I must have blacked out.
How's the eye now?
Well, I still going for a test, and the doctor said I was lucky not to lose the sight altogether.
Well, you're a wiser man now, Steve. Given the same situation again, what would you do?
Well, if I hadn't been running, I wouldn't have slipped.
In other words, a little more self-discipline, not only from you, Steve, but from the rest of the men as well. Thanks for talking to us, Steve. It's nice to see you back at work.
Thanks, Mr. Scarlett.
When you think about it, There's a difference of only 6 minutes between the first man out of the pit and the last. It's just not worth jumping the queue. Since that accident occurred, we've taken positive action to prevent the same thing from happening. First of all, we've eliminated the cause of the slipping. The old floor covered by conveyor belting has been replaced by a non-slip concrete surface. Also, we've regulated the movement of men to the pit bottom by installing a chicane barrier. This has encouraged self-discipline in an area where men so easily become unruly. Once again, the floor is non-slip concrete. Non-slip surfaces can also be used to good effect on the pit bank. Steps and gantries can become quite slippery when wet. Non-slip surface coatings guard against this hazard. Also, it's important to remember that surfaces, normally safe during the summer months, can become quite treacherous during winter. Sand and salt can be used to guard against the hazards associated with cold weather. Another safeguard is to cover appropriate walkways. In this way, the walking surface will be completely protected from any adverse conditions.
All right, Harry.
Oh, it's about down, man.
Even indoors, walkway areas can by accident become quite dangerous. Isn't that right, Harry? Would you mind telling me once again what happened to you?
Well, you know, it was one of them mornings. I couldn't get the car going again. Had to borrow the lad's bike to get here. By the time I landed in, I was way behind. I always like to get in the canteen before I go down. So to save time, I took a shortcut through the workshops. When I saw young McTownsend, I thought he'd be just the bloke for my first aid team. As it turned out, it was me who ended up being the patient.
Ali, stay still. Don't try and move. Look, we'll be all right, mate. Don't move your head. We'll get someone out here now. Just take it easy. Try not to worry. We'll see you're okay.
They took me to hospital with a slip disc, and that was 2 months ago. I can still feel the pain now.
Of course. Harry shouldn't have come this way in the first place. Even so, if the mechanic had used a proper drainage tray, Harry would have got away with it. If, by accident, you do spill some oil, clean it up straight away. It might only be a drop or two, but the hazards remain the same. Oil-absorbent materials should be available wherever large quantities of oil are stored, both on the surface and underground. A very common cause of slipping accidents underground is a wet surface on inclined roadways. In this incline, we've overcome the water problem by covering the floor with ballast. Over in 15's district, the water problem is more severe, so we've used another method. Here we are channeling the water under a metal grid, which also provides a good non-slip walking surface. This is a typical example of a man-made obstruction. A point lever has been placed right in the middle of the walkway, literally forcing men to walk over it. A floor floor-mounted lever does exactly the same job, but has the extra advantage of keeping the walkway free from obstruction. Man-made obstacles are a frequent cause of stumbling accidents, but by far the most common cause is untidiness. Frank, do you mind telling us what happened to you?
Well, I'd just come off the face to fetch some cutter picks, and the whole place was complete shambles. I had to search around to find the bag. As you know, I'm used to taking a few knocks on the football field, but that heavy bag, it pulled me right over. As I fell against the panzer, I fractured my collarbone. I was off work for a month, and I couldn't play in our team's League Cup final replay.
Well, could have been worse, Frank. Thanks for talking.
Okay, thank you.
Oh, by the way, how'd you get on?
We lost 2-1.
Good housekeeping is essential throughout the mine, particularly in roadhead areas where there is a constant movement of men and materials. Let's face it, it's not always easy when the pressure's on, but tidiness is always well worth the effort. If Frank had fallen onto the Panzer, he'd have lost far more than a football match. This is another area where we inevitably have a high concentration of men and machinery. Walkways have been marked out for good reason. Keep them clear. We've already looked at some common causes for slipping and stumbling. And, most important, we've seen how these accidents could have been avoided. I've deliberately left the most dangerous type of accident until last. Bruce Elliott was an experienced back ripper. In fact, at the time of his accident, he was waiting to attend a potential deputy's course and had every prospect of becoming an official. A married man with 2 children, he'll be in a wheelchair for life.
We were working on B12's back rip. We were ready to put in a girder leg, and all I had to do was to pluck a piece of dirt. It was a small enough job, and I didn't think it was worth putting up a scaffold.
Needed for that little bit. I've got a little split bar here.
Well, I've got the scaffold, easy.
Oh, this will be quicker. You're all right.
Don't worry. I'll put this end on the strut. I want you to come and hold this end for me. You come in.
Please walk over here. That'll be safer, won't it?
Oh, we have safety, man. Come on. Let's get the job done.
Along there.
It'll be all right. Hold it there. I fell badly across the haulage track. They told me in hospital that I'd broke a couple of vertebrae and a piece of bone had severed the nerve. I'll never walk again.
No matter how small the job, always use a properly designed scaffold. They are easy to build and safe to work on. Once again, a little care could have avoided a tragic accident. Wherever you have to work at height, use equipment that's right for the job. A scaffold is much more stable than a ladder, and there's less temptation to overreach. Properly designed mobile platforms can be used as an alternative to erecting a scaffold. Although this particular design is expensive to buy, jobs can be tackled more quickly than by scaffolding. The time saved soon repays the initial capital cost. Engine houses need high ceilings to contain the necessary machinery. Here, we have fitted the overhead crane with a proper working platform. In this way, awkward jobs like changing a light bulb are safe and simple to carry out. In some cases, it's just not possible to use a scaffold or a platform. In these situations, a safety harness must always be used. Modern harnesses are easy to put on, light to wear, and do not restrict movement. If a man should overbalance, his fall is safely arrested. Last year, over 10,000 men were injured by stumbling, falling or slipping. That's an average of about 40 accidents each working day. Unless there's a positive change in attitude, these numbers will remain high. After all, safety at work isn't just a job for the safety engineer. It's got to be a way of life for everyone.
If everyone had been walking, I wouldn't have been hurt.
If he'd cleaned that oil up, I wouldn't have slipped.
I didn't see the cable. I was too busy avoiding everything else.
I know we should have used a scaffold, but it didn't seem worth it for such a small job.
Most accidents can be avoided by using a little care and common sense. After all, the stakes are high. It's your life you're playing with. Okay, driver. Get the accident report made out, lads.